Webinar on the modern practice. Today what I'm going to do is take you through an overview of what we believe the modern practice to be, talk you through it, have a chat about some of our solutions that fill the gap, and today we're going to focus in this short webinar on a focus on document management. So without much further ado, our agenda today, for those of you who are interested in agendas, is what is the modern practice? What do we mean by it? Where does it come from? What does it look like? What are our solutions? As I said, a focus on some of the cool things we're doing around document management and some next steps. So, the modern practice. To give you some background, in December 2011, Chris Ridd, the current managing director of Xero Australia, gave me a call and started talking about the modern practice, which really was what Xero were trying to do, was take accounting practices and allow them to operate totally in the cloud. So we spoke with Xero, we understood what they were trying to do, and we started development back in January 2012, and we worked very closely with Xero, obviously with our team, who'd had a bunch of experience moving all sorts of organizations to the cloud, and finally with 5 separate accounting practices to understand what their requirements were. And out of those 5, 3 have gone on to be our customers and 2 have gone in other directions. And I think that's important to say this isn't the only way you can do this. There's lots of different ways. And what's interesting about the ones that aren't our customers is they've still adopted the modern practice, the reference architecture, but they've gone on to do their own what we call prescription. And I'll describe those. A reference architecture is effectively a document describing everything that's required in a modern practice, but at a non-technology or specific level. So we might say, for example, you need an internet connection. We're not going to say how fast it needs to be. We'll say it needs to be adequate for what you're doing, and that's part of what we call a reference architecture. The next one is a prescriptive architecture, where we actually go and implement various components to actually round out and deliver on the vision. And we've rolled that out to a growing number of firms, but it's an implementation of that reference architecture. So let's take a look at the modern practice and find out what it's all about. So this is the Modern Practice Reference Architecture version 2.0. And this architecture shows you what we believe to be all the different things you require for an accounting practice. On the bottom right, you have things like internet, voice, and fax. You could call this connectivity, but it's really how do I connect my practice to the rest of the world? And obviously I do that via the telephone, I do that via facsimiles, I do that via an internet connection. The next one, if I move from the bottom right along one to the left, is email and collaboration. That's just not email, just not messaging, but it's also things like shared calendar, shared contacts, shared tasks, the ability to move forward and book meeting rooms so that you don't clash, the ability to communicate using distribution lists or shared mailboxes such as sales at, and to allow multiple people to see those. And we believe that's a critical part of not just how the modern practice works, but how businesses should operate. Next, and also important, is your website and marketing. How do we build a website which will operate for your practice, which will do all the different things you need, and how do we integrate your clients' lists into marketing lists? Now, one of the things that the modern practice architecture says is we should only ever have one source of truth for things like a client. So your client record, we believe, should live in your practice management system, and everything else should reference that. So you only have one database rather than multiples, and that's the way to achieve some real optimal working. Desktop computing. So when we get rid of servers and we think about the cloud, because the modern practice is about accounting firms in the cloud, what do we need to look after? And we need to look after the device on your desk. And that could be your Mac, it could be your iPad, it could be your Windows Surface, it could be your PC. We don't really discriminate, but it's important to understand what we do with that, how we manage it, how we make sure it doesn't get viruses, how we make sure you've got all the right software, etc., etc. Moving on, going across to the middle row and now the far right one, real-time communication. Now, lots of you will be familiar with this, some brand names such as Skype, MSN Messenger, and others. And these tools allow you to communicate with your clients in real time. It allows you to share screens, share information, and actually work efficiently with them without you or them leaving their office, which is really effective. And we think that's an important part of being a modern practice. The next one, which is quite critical, is document management. And document management is about two things in our mind. It's about being able to store and index documents effectively, but most importantly, it's about being able to find and retrieve them later. Most document management systems are built around folders, and unfortunately, if you file a document in the wrong folder, it's impossible to find again. So how do we do that? The next thing is removing the barrier or the admin tasks of actually filing these documents. How can we do that automatically? We also believe to be critical. So moving on from there, practice management. How do you manage everything from leads coming into your business to clients, to mail outs, to jobs, to time, to work in progress, to invoicing? And a good practice management system is the heart of running an accounting practice as a business. Now, obviously, those are just supporting back office systems, right? They support you doing work. And now we get into the tools that help you do your job and charge your clients. Ledger and accounting. Right? How do you actually record client ledgers? How do you get that information in so you can actually give them some insight and some numbers? That's ledger and accounting. And then we go and automate things like tax. And there's various ways to do that, but as much as possible, we want to automate the production of end of year returns and doing work papers. Maybe you're an organization that does self-managed superannuation funds, and so that's the feature. The next one is corporate secretarial, which is managing company filing and et cetera, et cetera. And then additional other services you might want to offer. And an example of that is things like HR services. And so there needs to be space in the architecture for them. And so what we're trying to do is build out this reference model of how organizations actually, what things organizations need to think about. Now, in the enterprise world, which is where I come from, we do this uniquely for each organization. But obviously, as we get down into the SMB space, that type of work is cost prohibitive. So by doing it in this grand scale, using a reference architecture, we can actually adapt to all the needs effectively of all the accounting firms in the country through a single consistent method and architecture, which obviously reduces the cost we have to spend on developing and reduces the ongoing costs that we charge you. So it's all about saving money. So let's think about cloud computing for a second. So, as I said, just mentioned earlier, my background's from enterprise computing. So my background's actually IT and finance. So I come from some of the larger finance organizations where we've been implementing IT. And when I look at a retail bank, for example, and I've worked at 4 retail banks, deploying IT to a branch is very similar to doing it to a small and medium business. Yet Westpac can deliver IT at a far lower cost per branch than traditionally somebody such as yourselves building IT for your business could. And the reason for it is scale. Cloud computing provides massive scale, what we call internet scale, which is huge, and it allows us to provide enterprise class service at a small and medium business price. The other thing with cloud is because we automate things like servers and disks and power and cooling and those things, it reduces your administration, which ongoing reduces cost. But because you access it over the internet, it enables you to work from anywhere or anywhere working. However, the benefit of cloud computing is only realized when all of your systems are in the cloud. Just moving one system to the cloud doesn't actually realize the benefit. It realizes an additional cost, to be honest with you, and maybe a small reduction in administration. So it's important when you start on the cloud journey to be planning for everything to go into the cloud. So let's move forward and look at the modern practice, our prescription, if you will. So what do we implement in this version of the modern practice? So if we have a look, and I'm going to draw some pictures on this. Let me just grab my pen. So if I look down the bottom, we'll start with internet, voice, and fax. There we go. And so what we do with this is we look at either using your existing provider, providing some solutions through mobility, but we also work quite closely with MyNet Phone in New Zealand and Australia to deliver telephony services out to our clients from the cloud, which is very exciting. For email and collaboration, we use Exchange Online, which is part of Microsoft Office 365. And the reason we use Office 365 is it tends to be very familiar to accounting firms. You're familiar with the Office set of products. So putting in Office 365 in most cases has no impact whatsoever to how your business works or how your users feel about life, the universe, and everything. Website and marketing, Office 365 offers you your own website for free as part of the subscription. And MailChimp, we can integrate with your practice management solution to mean that you have one database of people you mail. So you create a newsletter, send it, and it goes to the right group of people. Desktop computing. We have a couple of offers there. We have Windows Intune, which is all about managing desktops and managing your computers. But we also have something we call the Ultimate Workstation, which is a hardware reference architecture based on the Microsoft Surface and a couple of screens, which is perfect for accountants to do their business. Real-time communication, Office 365 comes with a solution called Link. Link integrates with Skype and MSN Messenger, but is secure. It allows you to have secure conversations that are recorded and archived, so you can use them for instructions, but also allows you to see when your clients are online or offline, when they're at their desk or not, which saves you playing telephone tag with them. Moving on, what we've done with document management is we've taken SharePoint in Office 365 and we've integrated it with Workflow Max for practice management. So Xero bring out Practice Studio. What we've done is as following our plan of having one database, there is one database. It's Workflow Max or Xero Practice Studio. And that integrates with document management. And that also integrates with email and marketing. So we start to get this really rich center of your universe being practice management. Of course, that then integrates off with Spotlight and Xero. And coming soon is the integration of that with tax solutions. So we've now got ledger and accounting, practice management tightly coupled with tax tightly coupled as well. Now, obviously Xero for the next 9, 10, 11 months aren't going to have a total tax solution. So we can help you by taking things like Handy Tax or some of the others up to the cloud and hosting that with a provider until you're able to move across to the next version. With self-managed superannuation funds, we can work with Class Super, which is already in the cloud, or with BGL Simple Fund, which again, we'd host on an Amazon or Windows Azure server. From corporate secretarial, we work quite closely with BGL CAS. Again, we can host that in the cloud for you. And obviously there's other services such as Enable HR, free to Xero Silver partners, and Practice Ignition, which is another product. So there's really an overview of the entire modern practice delivered. So where we come into this is not just defining the architecture, but also sitting with the larger firms and helping you develop an overall cloud strategy, doing the migration, implementation, and training, and then providing you with ongoing support and updates, which we think is key. And that's kind of shown in this picture, where on the left, we've got our consulting services to implement, migrate, and train. On the right, we can make sure everything's upgraded and we can provide you with ongoing support. And along the bottom there is the fact that we deliver to you an end-to-end cloud strategy, a vision for your practice into the future, to get rid of the server and let you focus on delivering accountancy services rather than technology services with the associated cost benefit. So today what we're going to do is we're just going to do a little demo and look at a focus on document management, because we think document management is really, really important. And what I'm going to pick on is just a couple of things. First of all, one of the things we delivered was called the Modern Practice Portal. And the Modern Practice Portal is a configuration of SharePoint that integrates with Workflow Max. So SharePoint is one of the richest document management platforms available in the world today and is used by 60% of enterprise users across the globe. So 60% of people in the Fortune 1000 companies use SharePoint every day. So they can't all be wrong. But it really has traditionally been cost prohibitive for the smaller organization, and the cloud has changed that. But SharePoint's great when it starts talking to what we call line of business data. And in an enterprise, that's kind of easy. Hooking up systems in my data center is actually slightly easier than hooking up systems in the cloud. So what we spend a good deal of time doing is tying together Workflow Max and SharePoint. And so I'm going to move along and just show you the Modern Practice Portal, which really is an infrastructure which shows you a bunch of different information about your environment. For example, we have document management, we can look at our clients, we can share data with our clients, we can integrate Xero, Workflow Max, and there's some other things we can do as well, right? So what we're going to do right now is I'm just going to move across, and let me just go and find this. I'll grab this tool, and this is a tool by us called Scan Document Manager. And what this tool does is it connects to Workflow Max and it connects to SharePoint. And basically what I can do is either scan documents as a searchable PDF using any commercial scanner, and put them into a folder, or I can drag them onto this tool, which is what I'm going to do shortly, and drag them onto this tool, and it will process them, and I'll show you what it does. Let's just have a quick look at the configuration. And so first of all, we have SharePoint. Where am I actually putting this? And you see in this example, I'm putting it into our Modern Practice portal. My username and password. We then connect it up to Workflow Max, and we can do either the New Zealand instance or the default instance, and I can add any of the different fields and any custom fields I've created to act as matching. So how do I match the document to a client? I then choose which folder I'm going to put it in and how I'm going to convert it. And when we're doing text matching, we can either be case sensitive, which we probably don't want to be, or convert everything into lower or uppercase for matching. What we can then do is rename the file. So if I've got something out of the scanner, it's normally called scan 002. If it's got the word invoice in it, I can change it to have invoice. I can add the client name to the file. I can remove the original name. We've got a bunch of options here. And finally, we had word equivalents, which means if you see PTY Limited, it actually means PL or Proprietary Limited, etc. And we can have a bunch of those. So there's the different settings. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to I have a little document here, which is scan 002 from my scanner. I'm just going to drop it on top of that app. And what it's doing is it's starting off by processing that document. It's going to have a look at all the data in it. And when it's worked out which client it is, it's going to upload it into SharePoint, which is what it's doing in the background right now while I'm talking to you. So we'll just let that run through and do its thing. And I'll show you what's going on actually on the file system. So while that's processing, I have on my computer a folder called scans. And there's the file it's processing. It's just finished processing it there. And I have a file upload log. I'll bring that across. And what that says, I'll show that to you, is that scan 002 has now become invoice from AGL on this time and date. And it's put it into the AGL folder under clients. So let me prove that to you. If I actually go to HubOne's Modern Practice portal, which is just here, and I go to the Documents library, and I'll just let that load up. And I pop into clients. You see we've got a lot of stuff in our document library. And I go to, let's just see if we can find, just search by name. AGL. You'll see it's uploaded that document. Now, it's brand new, just uploaded just now. If I have a look and click on it, what you'll see is it's actually parsed that by finding out, firstly, it's from AGL, and secondly, down here, it's a tax invoice. So what you have there is you have Scan Document Manager reading a document, in this case, just an electricity bill, working out who it's for, filing it in the right place in SharePoint. And means in SharePoint itself, when I go back to find it, I can either browse the folder, which I just did, but we also have the other ability for me just to go to search, which I shall do right now, which allows me to search my entire environment. And if I search for AGL, for example, what I'll get is every document to do with AGL. So I have the folder up here, I have a scan here, I have another scan here, another one there, blah, 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 blah. So all of those documents live in there, and I can filter them, see any document modified in the last 6 months, etc. So I have this great ability to find anything I want in my environment. And you see how quick this is. I'm doing this in real time. So we have tools which allow us to put documents into the system, to pull documents back out of the system, to find stuff, and to have it automatically filed based on our needs. So I hope that's been a little interesting and showed you what's happening. Again, all I'd need to do as well is just copy it into that folder or get my scanner to do that, and it would automatically find it. Let me get rid of that for you. Now, so in conclusion, practices face an absolute plethora of choices, but what we've done is built solutions to work together to solve all of your issues. Nice thing about it though, it's a journey. We can start anywhere and go anywhere. So we could start with practice management, we could start with email. Right? We're really keen to make sure this is about reducing your costs, not adding to them. And we hope you keep looking at what we're doing for more updates. I'd like to thank you for your time today, and hope you have a fantastic day. Thanks so much.